So I don't know what your relationship is like with your siblings, but we've been in a series talking about Abraham, Isaac, and Isaac's family. Isaac and his wife Rebecca, they had two sons, and they were twins. So we had the older brother named Esau. Say Esau. Okay. It does sound like Yeehaw, but it's not. It is Esau. And Esau, his name meant hairy, like furry hair. Apparently the baby came out so hairy that the parents were like, "We will name you Furry Child," right? That's what they named him. They named him Hairy. He was that hairy as a baby. And then his brother came out moments after, and he was holding on. Now imagine this, because this is a really cute baby scene. Imagine this, one twin baby comes out first, and then the next baby is holding on to the other baby's foot. Now, come on, just think about, just think about like newborn infant, tiny, like those fingers are like this long, okay? And just like holding on to the heel of the other baby. And so Isaac and Rebekah, they saw their baby holding the heel of Esau, and they were like, "We will name you Heel." And they did. That's literally his name. His name, it's not Heel. That's not how you pronounce it because it's in Hebrew. So we pronounce the name Jacob. How many of you know somebody named Jacob? Anybody know a Jacob? All right. Next time you see them, you can go, "Hey, Heel," and they won't get it. They won't get it. I promise you. But you can do it. I imagine none of you know anybody named Esau, and that's okay. You have everything today. You have absolutely. He's been to 73 states in America. It's amazing. Amazing. Okay. So we have the two brothers, right? And here's the deal. They are brothers in the Bible. They're Bible brothers. The Bible tells stories about their brotherhood. And you know what? I think sometimes I think we might go, "Wow, they're in the Bible. They've got to be brothers. They must be nice brothers." No, they are not. Let me tell you a couple stories about Jacob. Because Jacob's name, it means heel, but his name actually has two meanings. Because it's a word that's you ready for this? This is school stuff. It's a homonym. Do you know what that is? Anybody remember? Okay, nope, not a homophone, homonym. So it looks the same, but it has different meanings. All right, like think of the word bear, right? It could mean an animal, or it could mean to carry something. Or the word fall, it could mean to trip and fall, or it could mean the season of the year, right? So Jacob in Hebrew means heel, and they're like, "Oh, cute, look, little heely boy." But it also means the deceiver. And here's what happens. When Jacob is a little older, Esau decides to go hunting. Now, Jacob and Esau were old enough that their parents were not around. In fact, more likely, Jacob is working a job as a shepherd, and his brother Esau goes hunting, and he's trying to hunt. Now, this isn't a time like we live in a day that, let's say that you go hunting around Cape Coral with your BB gun, and you try to kill a rabbit, and you come back to your house, and you're like, "Hey, I didn't get to kill any rabbits today." Most likely, you don't go, "Mom and Dad, I'm sorry, I didn't kill any rabbits today, so it looks like we're going to starve." Because likely, you have some food at your house. But Esau, he fails at hunting, and they have no food. So Esau comes back, and he is literally starving. But fortunately for him, his brother Jacob is back at the tent cooking stew. And I imagine, have you ever walked into your house and been able to smell? smell somebody cooking something? I mean, it could be it could be like a good soup or like Hot Pockets. It doesn't matter. You just smell it and you're like, oh, yes, yes. And so Esau walks into the camp and he smells the stew and he's like, oh, I've got to have it. That's what the Bible says in Genesis 25, verse 30. Esau said to Jacob, I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew. And his brother says, all right, but trade me your rights as the firstborn son. Wait. Imagine you came home one day, you are so hungry, it's right after school, you didn't, for some reason, your lunch at school was inedible because the meat didn't look like it could be fed to humans, and so you came home and you were like, I am so hungry, and your sibling's over there whipping up some pizza rolls, and just like this. And you come in and you're like, I'm starving. Can I have some? And they go, yeah, sure. If you give me all your video games. Or, yeah. You have to give me all of your accounts. No. Here's what Jacob says to his older brother Esau. He says, listen, I will give you a bowl of soup if you give me your share of the inheritance that you'll get when mom and dad die. That's what he says. That's what he's asking for. The birthright is, hey, I want your share of mom and dad's stuff when they die. And you know what? I think all of us can immediately recognize Jacob's a jacked up brother. Like, that's absolutely unfair. That is cruel. And yet Esau, in that moment, he says, hey, listen, if I die, I don't get my birthright anyway, so I might as well trade it for some soup and live. And in this moment, Jacob lives up to his name as a deceiver. And he steals his brother's inheritance. But wait, that's not the only story where Jacob's a dirtbag. Because later in his life, their dad Isaac is about to die. He's old. The Bible says that not only is he old, but he's losing his eyesight. He's going blind. And so he's afraid that he's not got a lot of time left. And so he calls in Esau. And back in that day, the oldest child was considered the most special. And here's the deal. As the oldest child in my family, I can say it's true. But, I'm just kidding. How many of you are the oldest? Okay, all right. So here's the deal. The oldest child in Jacob and Esau's day would get a special prayer over them that was better than what the younger siblings would get. Now you could say, hey, that's not fair, but it doesn't matter because this is 4,000 years ago and nobody asked your opinion. So here's what was going to happen. That's what was going to happen. And Isaac goes, Esau, come in. So Esau comes in and he's like, yes, Dad. And he goes, I want you to go and we're going to make today a special day. I'm going to pray my final blessing over you. And this is going to be a huge deal. These are going to be my final words to you. This is going to be the final gift to you. I'm going to give you a spiritual blessing. Now, many of us might not understand how big of a deal that is, but to them, this is everything. In fact, Esau, even though he didn't have his birthright, he knew, well, at least I will get my blessing. And so he's content. He doesn't have his birthright anymore, but he's like, well, at least I'll get my blessing from Dad. And so Isaac says, Esau, I want you to go hunt some food, bring it back. We're going to cook it, make a big meal. Then I'm going to pray a blessing over you. And it says, the Bible says that Esau leaves, but Jacob's mom overhears. And she comes into Jacob and says, hey, Jacob, what do you think about if you get your brother's blessing instead of him? And Jacob goes, Mom, it'll never work. It'll never work. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if you realize, but this is sneaky all around. Isaac's wife and youngest son are like, hey, let's trick dad. And so together they decide that they are going to lie to Isaac. Here's what it says. Jacob goes to walk in to the tent that Isaac is in, and Isaac can't see him. So he says, who's there? And Jacob goes, Dad, it's me. And and Isaac goes, yeah, that sounds like Jacob. And he's like, no, Dad, it's me, Esau. He's like, no, sounds like Jacob. You sound like Jacob. And he goes, okay, I sent Esau to go hunt some food. If you're Esau, why are you back already? And Jacob lies to his dad and he says, oh, guess what? God helped me. Now, I don't know about you, but this is really, 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 really messed up because he makes God a part of his lie. Did you catch that? I mean, it's like not doing your homework and your teacher goes to give you a 0 and you're like, hey, listen, God told me I couldn't do my homework today, and so that's jacked up. You can't do that. But Jacob lies and he throws God under the bus with him. And he says, no, Dad, God helped me find the food, so it's here. And Isaac goes, well, come here. Because do you remember, Esau is really hairy, right? So he goes, come here. Let me touch your arms. And Isaac walks up, but Isaac had put extra hair on his arms. And so when he walked up to his dad grabbed him and he felt the hair and he said, wow, gosh, you feel like Esau. Lied to his dad again. And then he said, come here, let me hug you. I'm going to smell you. And he goes to hug him, but Isaac had put on Esau's clothes so that he smelled like him. He lied to him again. And then he asks one more time. He goes, gosh, you sound like Jacob. Are you sure you're Esau? And he says, yeah, Dad, I am. And he lies again and again and again. He's a deceiver. He's literally living up to the name that had been given to him. And in this moment, he's a deceiver. And so his dad goes, I guess you are Esau. And he lays his hands on him and he prays over him. And he prays every blessing that he can think of on Isaac. And then it says, as soon as Jacob leaves, right on Jacob's heels comes Esau. And Esau comes in the room and he's like, Dad, I caught something for you. And the Bible says that Isaac starts to shake. He's terrified. And he said, Esau, what do you mean? He's like, no, Dad, I'm here. He's like, no. Who did I just pray for? And Esau's like, what do you mean, who did you just pray for? Isaac goes, I just prayed for you. I thought it was you. And he's like, no. Must have been your brother. And so Esau, the Bible says he begins to cry, and he goes, Dad, pray something over me. But Isaac had prayed so much over Jacob that he turns to Esau and he says, Esau, I can't pray anything good over you. I prayed it all for your brother. Jacob stole his brother's inheritance and his father's last blessing. And Esau was furious. In fact, the Bible says he was so angry that he started waiting for his parents to die so that he could kill Jacob. I mean, I know sometimes you get into like an argument with your siblings and you're like, you stole my shoes. But Esau is like, I will kill you, right? That's a different level of sibling rivalry. And the Bible says that Jacob runs away because he's scared of Esau. But years later, like 15 years later, Jacob decides to come back home. And when he's on his way back home, Esau finds out. And I don't know how you think this is going to go, but when Esau finds out that Jacob is coming back home, the Bible says that Esau gets 400 soldiers to come meet Jacob. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever brought soldiers to hang out at school lunch, or to Christmas with your family, or to a play date at the park, right? No, that is not what you bring 400 soldiers for. You bring 400 soldiers for a battle. Esau's plan is to absolutely destroy Jacob, and it's in this moment. It's in this moment that probably for the first time in Jacob's life, he cries out to God and asks for help. And you know what's amazing is that God responds. Is Jacob a really good person? No. But when he cried out to God, God responds. Is Jacob the best person that we can think of to make it into the Bible? No. But when he calls out to God, God responds. And here's what happens. He calls out to God and says, God, I need you. I need your help. And the Bible says that God shows up. It's not a way that Jacob probably thought, but God shows up. Here's what happens. Jacob wakes up one night, and there's someone in the camp with him. And so he does what I think might come natural to many of us. If you wake up and somebody is creeping around your bed, you're going to fight them. I remember one time, I heard somebody stealing our grill from my back patio. And my room was right next to the back patio, so I could hear. Here's what it was. Here's what here's what they were doing. They were doing it slow, so they would drag it and then stop. And they would drag it and then stop. And I was like, oh, they're sneaky. They're trying to, I know. And so I literally used to keep a knife right above my bed. I literally army crawled through my house right up to the window with a knife in my hand. And I could still hear him. And then I realized it was the sprinkler just spraying the metal outside. So it was a false alarm. But I want you to know that at the moment that I thought somebody was there, I was like, oh, it's on. Shing! I don't know what weapon I think I had. And shing! Whatever. All right, but the Bible says that Jacob sees this guy in his camp, and he grabs him, and he begins to wrestle. He begins to wrestle with this guy in the camp. But as the night goes on, Jacob keeps wrestling, and so does this guy. And neither one of them let go. And the night goes on, and they're wrestling, and neither one of them let go. And finally, as the night goes on, Jacob begins to realize, hey, I'm not just wrestling a guy. I'm wrestling someone sent by God. Like, this is this is not a normal encounter. This is someone special. And so at the end of the night, the man that Jacob is wrestling with goes, "You have to let me go." And Jacob goes, "I will not let you go until you bless me." Now, let me tell you what I love about this, is that Jacob knew he needed God's help. Unfortunately, Jacob didn't realize he needed God's help until the scariest moment in his life. You don't have to wait till the scariest moment in your life to recognize that you need God in your life. Jacob waited. And he got to the point, though, and this is what I love, that he was so desperate for God that he was like, "I'm going to hold on to this guy until God blesses me. I need God so badly that I won't let go." And what I love about this story, it's super cool to me, is that the angel goes to Jacob, "I'm giving you a new name." He says, "You've been called Jacob, you've been called deceiver, but I'm going to give you a new name, and his new name is Israel." If you've ever heard of the nation of Israel, that's where the name comes from. But he renames him Israel, and here's why. El means God, Isra means wrestler. So his name literally is God Wrestler. Here's what I love about this, is that at the moment that God enters Jacob's life, the moment that Jacob needs God and calls on God, that's the moment that God enters into his life. When he does, God alone has the power to change him from deceiver to one who needs God. And this is what's so important for us to understand this morning, that we need Jesus. Every single one of us. Every person you know needs Jesus. Every one of us needs Jesus because there's things that we've done that, kind of like Jacob's name, they stick to us, but we actually need God's help. We need Jesus' forgiveness to get rid of those things. See, without Jesus, we can't get rid of sin. We can't. You can't scrub it, you can't wash it, you can't do anything except call on Jesus, and Jesus forgives us.